Hey everyone, how's it going? Today, and welcome back by the way, sorry. Today we are in Genesis 38, and I think we get pretty close to the ending this time. Maybe one or two episodes. Maybe, hear me out now. The first week into January we'll be done with Genesis, and we'll be able to then proceed on to Exodus. But let's just hope. I don't know. I don't really care because still got a long ways to go. You know what I'm saying? Long ways to go. Either way, and can't wait to continue this journey. But almost done with one of them. Almost done with one. All right. Well, let's get a spin on this. Number 38 in Genesis 38:1. Okay, let's get it. Bam. It came to pass that at the time that Judah departed from his brothers and visited a certain Adamulite whose name was Hira, and Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite whose name was Shua, and he married her and went into her. So she conceived and bore a son, and he called his name She conceived again and bore a son, and she called his name Onan. She conceived yet again and bore a son, and called his name Shelah. He was Chizib when she bore him. Then Judah took a wife for his firstborn, and her name was Tamar. But Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord killed him. And Judah said to Onan, "Go in to your brother's wife and marry her, and raise up an heir to your brother." But Onan knew that the heir would not be his. It came to pass when he went into his brother's wife, that he omitted on the ground, lest he should give an heir to his brother. And the thing which he did displeased the Lord, therefore he killed him also. Then Judah said to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, "Remain a widow in your father's house till my son Shelah is grown." For he said, lest he also die like his brothers. And Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. Now, in the process of time, the daughter of Shua, Judah's wife, died, and Judah was comforted and went up to his sheep shears at Tinamah, and his friend Hira the Adullamite. And it was told Tamar, saying, "Look, your father-in-law is going to Timnah to shear his sheep." So she took her widow garments, covered herself with the veil, and wrapped herself, and sat in the open place which was on the way to Timnah. For she saw that Shelah was grown, and she was not given to him as a wife. When Judah saw her, he thought she was a harlot, because she had covered her face. Then she turned to her by the way and said, "Please let me come into you," for he did not know that she was his daughter-in-law. So she said, "What will you give to me that you may come into me?" And he said, "I will send a young goat from the flock." And she said, "What will you give me a pledge till you send it?" Then he said, "What pledge shall I give to you?" And she said, "Your signet and cord and your staff that is in your hand." Then he gave them to her and went into her, and she conceived by him. So she arose and went away and laid aside her veil and put on garments of her widowhood. And Judah sent the young goat by hand of his friends the Adamite to receive his pledge from the woman's hand, and he did not find her. Then he asked the men of that place, saying, "Where is your harlot who was openly by the roadside?" And they said, "There was no harlot in this place." So he returned to Judah and said, "I cannot find her." Also, the men of this place said that there was no harlot in this place. Then Judah said, "Let her take them for herself, lest we be shamed, for I sent this young goat, and you have not found her." It came to pass that 3 months after that Judah was told, saying, "Tamar, your daughter-in-law, was played the harlot. Furthermore, she is with child by harlotry." So Judah said, "Bring her out and let her be burned." When she was brought out, she was sent to her father-in-law, saying, "By the man to whom these belong, I am with child." And she said, "Please determine whose these are, the signet and cord and staff." So Judah acknowledged them and said, "She had been more righteous than I, because I did not give her to Shelah my son, and he never knew her again." Now it came to pass at the time for giving birth that, behold, twins were in their womb. So it was, she was giving birth, and the one put out his hand, and the midwife took a scarlet thread and bound it on his hand, saying, "This one came out first." Then it happened, and he drew back his hand, and his brother came out unexpectedly. And she said, "How did you break through? This breach be upon you." Therefore his name was called Perez. Afterward his brother came out, who had the scarlet thread on his hand, and his name was Zerah. 39. Now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of the Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, brought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him down there. The Lord was with Joseph, and was a successful man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all he did to prosper in his hand. So Joseph found favor in his sight, and served him. Then he made him overseer of his house, and all that he had put under his authority. So it was, for from the time that he had made him overseer of his house and all that he had, and that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. And the blessing of the Lord was on all that he had in the house and in the field. Thus he left all that he had in Joseph's hand. He did not know what he had except for the bread which he ate. Now Joseph was handsome in form and appearance. And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast longing eyes on Joseph, and she said, "Lie with me." But he refused and said to his master's wife, "Look, my master does not know what is with me in this house, and he has committed all that he has to my hand. That there is no one greater in this house than I, nor has he kept back anything from me but you, because you are his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" So it was. And she spoke to Joseph day by day, and he did not heed her, to lie with her or to be with her. But it happened about this time, when Joseph went into the house to do his work, none of the men of the house was inside, and she caught him by his garment, saying, "Lie with me." And he left his garment in her hand and fled and ran outside. And so it was, when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and fled outside, she called the man of her house and spoke to them, saying, "See, he has brought into us a Hebrew to mock us. He came in to lie with me, and I cried out with a loud voice. And it happened, when he heard, I lifted my voice and cried, And he left his garment with me and fled and went outside. And so she kept his garment with her until the master came home, and she spoke to him with words like these, saying, "The Hebrew servant whom you brought to us came into me to mock me. So it happened, as I lifted my voice and cried out, and he left his garments with me and fled outside. So it was when the master heard the words which his wife spoke to him, saying, Your servant did to me after this manner, that his anger was aroused. Then Joseph's master took him and put him in prison, a place where the king's prisoners were confined, and he was there in prison. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy, and he gave him favor in sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners who were in the prison. Whatever they did there, it was his doing. The keeper of the prison did not look onto anything that was under Joseph's authority, because the Lord was with him, and whatever he did, the Lord made it prosper. It came to pass after these things that the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt offended their lord, the king of Egypt, and the Pharaoh was angry with his two officers, the chief butler and chief baker. So he put them in custody in the house of the captain of the guard in the prison, the place where Joseph was confined. And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he served them. So they were in custody for a while. Then the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt, who were confined in the prison, had a dream. Both of them, each man's dream in one night, and each man's dream within its own interpretation. And Joseph came into them in the morning and looked at them and saw that they were sad. So he asked Pharaoh's officers who were with him in the custody of his lord's house, saying, Why do you look so sad today? And they said to him, We each have had a dream, and there is no interpreter of it. So Joseph said to them, Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell them to me, please. Then chief butler told his dream to Joseph and said to him, Behold, in my dream a vine was before me, and in the vine were 3 branches, and it was though it budded. It blossoms shot forth, and its clusters brought forth ripe grapes. Then Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and pressed them into the Pharaoh's cup and placed the cup in the Pharaoh's hand. And Joseph said to him, This is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are the 3 days. Now within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your place, and you will put Pharaoh's cup in his hand according to the former manner which you were his butler. But remember me when it is well with you, and please show kindness to me and make mention of me to Pharaoh to get me out of this house. For indeed I was stolen away from the land of the Hebrews, and also I have done nothing here which they put me into the dungeon. When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, he said to Joseph, I was also in my dream, and there were 3 white baskets on my head. In the uppermost basket were all kinds of baked goods for Pharaoh, and the birds ate them out of the basket on my head. So Joseph answered and said, This is the interpretation of it. 3 baskets are the 3 days. Within 3 days Pharaoh will lift off your head from you and hang it on a tree, and the birds will eat your flesh from you. Now it came to pass on the 3rd day, which was the Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast for all of his servants. He lifted up the head of the chief butler and the chief baker among his servants, and he restored the chief butler to his butlership again, and he placed the cup in the Pharaoh's hand. And he hanged the chief baker as Joseph had interpreted to them. Yet the chief butler did not remember Joseph, but forgot him. 41. Remember, there's 50, so we're kind of pushing right now. We're getting somewhere, because it's 15 minutes in, and we're at 41. That's already a pretty decent, huh? Then it came to pass at the end of the 2 full years that Pharaoh had a dream, and behold, he stood by the river. Suddenly he came up out of the river 7 cows, fine looking and fat, and they fed in the meadow. Then behold, 7 other cows came up after them out of the river, ugly and gaunt, and stood by the other cows on the river bank. And the ugly and gaunt cows ate up the 7 fine-looking and fat cows. So Pharaoh awoke, he slept and dreamed a second time, and suddenly 7 heads of grain came up on one stalk, plump and good. Then behold, 7 thin heads, blighted by the east wind, sprang up after them, and the 7 thin heads devoured the 7 plump and full heads. So Pharaoh woke indeed, it was a dream. Now it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all magicians of Egypt and all its wise men, and the Pharaoh told them his dreams, but there was no one who could interpret them for Pharaoh. Then the chief butler spoke to Pharaoh, saying, I remembered my faults to this day. When Pharaoh was angry with his servants and puts me in the custody of the house of the captain of the guard, both me and the chief baker, we each had a dream in one night, he and I. Each of us dreamed according to the interpretation of his own dream. Now there was a young Hebrew man with us there, a servant of the captain of the guard, and we told him, and he interpreted our dreams for us. To each man he interpreted according to his own dream. And it came to pass, just as he interpreted for us, so it happened. He restored me to my office, and he hanged him. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him quickly out of the dungeon. He shaved, changed his clothing, and came to the Pharaoh. And the Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have had a dream, and there is no one who can interpret it, but I have heard it said of you that you can understand a dream to interpret it. So Joseph answered the Pharaoh, saying, It is not me, God will give Pharaoh an answer of your peace. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, Behold, in my dream I stood on the bank of a river. Suddenly 7 cows came up out of the river, fine looking and fat, and they fed in the meadow. Then, behold, 7 cows came up after them, poor and very ugly and gaunt, such ugliness as I have ever seen in all the land of Egypt. And the gaunt and ugly cows ate up the first 7, the fat cows. When they had eaten them up, no one would have known that they had eaten them, for they were just as ugly as at the beginning. So I awoke. Also I saw in my dream, and also suddenly 7 heads came up on one stalk. Hold on, I think I might have, oh wait, yeah. No one would have known that they had eaten them, for they were just as ugly as the beginning. So I awoke. Also I saw in my dream, and suddenly 7 heads came up on one stalk, full and good. Then behold, 7 heads, withered, thin, and blighted by the east wind, sprang up after them, and ate, and the thin heads devoured the 7 good heads. So I told this to the magicians, but there was no one who could explain it to me. Then Joseph said to Pharaoh, The dreams of Pharaoh are one. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good heads are 7 years. The dreams are one. Connected. And the 7 thin and ugly cows which came up after them are the 7 years. And the 7 empty heads blighted by the east wind are 7 years of famine. Ooh. This is the thing which I have spoken to Pharaoh. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. Indeed, 7 years of great plenty will come through all the land of Egypt, but after the 7 years of famine will arise, and all the plenty will be gotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine will deplete the land. So the plenty will not be known in the land because of the famine following for it will be very severe. And the dream was repeated to Pharaoh twice because the thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. Now, therefore, let Pharaoh select a discerning and wise man and send him over to the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land to collect 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt in the 7 plentiful years, and let them gather all the food of those good years that are coming, and store up grain under authority of the Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. Then that food shall be as a reserve for the land for the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land may not perish during the famine. So the advice was good in the eyes of the Pharaoh and in the eyes of all of his servants. And the Pharaoh said to his servants, "Can we find such a one as this, a man in whom is the Spirit of God?" And the Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Inasmuch as God has shown you all this, there is no one as discerning and wise as you. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall be ruled according to your word. Only in regard to the throne will I be greater than you." And Pharaoh said to Joseph, "See, I have set you over all the land of Egypt." Then Pharaoh took his signet ring off his hand and put it on Joseph's hand, and he clothed him in garments of fine linen and put a gold chain around his neck, like a mob boss. All right. and he had him a ride in the second chariot which he had, and they cried out before him, "Bow the knee." So he has sent him over all the land of Egypt. Pharaoh also said to Joseph, "I am Pharaoh, and without your consent no man may lift his hand or foot in the land of Egypt." And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphnath Paneah, and he gave him as a wife Asnath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On. So Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt. Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before the Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of the Pharaoh and went throughout all the land of Egypt. Now, in the 7 plentiful years, the ground brought forth abundantly. So he gathered up all the food of the 7 years which were in the land of Egypt, and laid up the food in the cities. He laid up in every city the food of the fields which surrounded them. Joseph gathered very much grain, as the sand of the sea, until he stopped counting, for it was immeasurable. And to Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of famine, whom Asnath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, bore to him. Joseph called the name of his firstborn Manasseh, for God has made me forget all my toil and all my and all my father's house. And the name of the second was Ephraim, for God has caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. Then the 7 years of plenty which were in the land of Egypt ended, and the 7 years of famine began to come. And Joseph said, the famine was in all the lands, but in the land of Egypt there was bread. So, when the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. Then Pharaoh said to all the Egyptians, go to Joseph, whatever he says to you, do. The famine was over all the face of the earth, and Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold to the Egyptians, and the famine became severe in the land of Egypt. So all countries came to Joseph in Egypt to buy grain, because the famine was severe in all the lands. We can get to 43 this time. When Jacob saw that there was grain in Egypt, Jacob said to his sons, why do you look at one another? And he said, indeed, I have heard that there is grain in Egypt. Go down to that place and buy for us there, that we may live and not die. So Joseph's 10 brothers went down to buy grain in Egypt, but Jacob did not send Joseph's brother Benjamin with his brothers, and he said, let some calamity befall him. And the sons of Israel went to buy grain among those who journeyed, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. Now Joseph was governor over the land, and it was he who sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brothers came and bowed down to him with their faces to the earth. And Joseph saw his brothers and recognized them, and he acted as a stranger to them and spoke roughly to them. And he said to them, where do you come from? And they said, from the land of Canaan, to buy food. So Joseph recognized his brothers, and they did not recognize him. Then Joseph remembered the dreams which he had dreamed about, and said to them, you are spies. You have come to see the nakedness of the land. And they said to him, no, my lord, but your servants have come to buy food. We are all one man's sons. We are honest men. Your servants are not spies. And he said to them, no, but you have come to see the nakedness of the land. And they said, your servants are 12 brothers, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan, and in fact the youngest is with our father today, and one is no more. But Joseph said to them, it is as I spoke to you, saying, you are spies. In the manner you shall be tested by the life of Pharaoh. You shall not leave this place unless your youngest brother comes here. Send one of you, and let him bring your brother, and you shall be kept in prison, that your words may be tested to see whether this is any truth in you. Or else, by the life of the Pharaoh, surely you are spies. So he put them all together in prison 3 days. Then Joseph said to them on the third day, do this and live, for I fear God. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers be confined to your prison house, but you go and carry grain for the famine of your houses. And bring your youngest brother to me, so your words will be verified, and you shall not die. And they did. Then they said to one another, we are truly guilty concerning our brothers, for we saw an anguish of his soul when he pleaded with us, and he would not hear. Therefore this distress has come upon us. And Reuben answered them, saying, did I not speak to you, saying, do not sin against the boy? And you would not listen. Therefore, behold, his blood is now required of us. And they did not know that Joseph understood them, and he spoke to them, saying, through an interpreter, and he turned himself away from them and wept. Then he returned to them again and talked with them, and he took Simon from them and bound him before their eyes. The brothers returned to Canaan. Then Joseph gave a command to fill their sacks with grain, to restore every man's money to his sack and give them provisions for their journey. Thus he did for them. So they loaded their donkeys with grain and departed from there. But as one of them opened his sack to give a donkey feed at the encampment, he saw his money, and there it was in the mouth of his sack. And so he said to his brothers, "My money has been restored, and there it is in my sack." Then their hearts failed them, and they were afraid, saying to one another, "What is this that God has done to us?" Then they went to Jacob, their father, in the land of Canaan, and told him all that had happened to them, saying, "This man who is the Lord of the land spoke roughly to us and took us for spies of the country. But we said to him, 'We are honest men, and we are not spies. We are the 12 brothers and sons of our father. One is no more, and the youngest is with our father to this day in the land of Canaan.' Then the man, the Lord of the country, said to us, 'By this I know that you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers here with me. Take food for the famine of your household, and be gone. And bring your youngest brother to me, so I shall know that you are not spies, but that you are honest men. I will grant your brother to you, and you may trade in the land.' Then it happened as they emptied their sacks that surprisingly each man's bundle of money was in his sack. And when they and their fathers saw the bundles of money, they were afraid. And Jacob their father said to them, 'You have bereaved me. Joseph is no more, Simon is no more, and you want to take Benjamin? All these things are against me.' Then Reuben spoke to his father, saying, 'Kill my 2 sons if I do not bring him back to you. But, put him in my hands, I will bring him back to you.' And he said, 'My son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead. He is left alone. If any calamity would befall him along in any which way you go, then you will bring down my gray hair with sorrow to the grave.'" Now the famine was severe in the land, and it came to pass when they had eaten up the grain which they had bought from Egypt, that their father said to them, "Go back and buy us little food." And Judah spoke to him, saying, "The man solemnly warned us, saying, 'You shall not see my face unless your brother is with you. If you send our brother with us, we will go down and buy you food. But if you will not send him, we will not go down. For the man said to us, you shall not see my face unless your brother is with you.'" And Israel said, Why did you deal so wrongfully with me as to tell a man whether you had still another brother?" And they said, "The man asked us and pointed about ourselves and our family, saying, 'Is your father still alive? Have you another brother?' And we told him according to these words. Could he possibly have known that he would say, 'Bring your brother down'?" Then Judah said to Israel, his father, "Send the lad with me, and we will arise and go, and we may live and not die, both we and you and also our little ones. I myself will surety for him." I don't know. "But from my hand you shall require him. If I do not bring him back to you and set him before you, then let me bear the blame forever. For we had not lingered surely by now, and we would have returned this second time." So their father Israel said to them, "If it must be so, then do this. Take some of the best fruits of the land in your vessel, and carry down a present for the man, a little balm and a little honey, spices myrrh, pistachio nuts, and almonds. Take double money in your hand and take back in your hand the money that was returned in the mouth of your sacks. Perhaps it was an oversight. Take your brother also, and arise, go back to the man, and may God Almighty give you mercy before the man, that he may release your older brother and Benjamin. If I am bereaved, I am bereaved. So the man took the present of Benjamin, and they took double money in their hand, and arose and went down to Egypt. And they stood before Joseph. And when Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the steward of his house, take these men to my home, and slaughter an animal and make ready, for these men will dine with me at noon. Then the men did as Joseph offered, and the man brought the men into Joseph's house. Now the men were afraid because they were brought into Joseph's house, and they said, it is because of the money which was returned in our sacks the first time that we are brought in, so that he may make a case against us and seize us and take us as slaves with our donkeys. When they drew near to the steward of Joseph's house, they talked with him at the door of the house and said, O sir, we indeed came down the first time to buy food, but it happened when we came to the encampment that we opened our sacks, and there each man's money was in the mouth of his sack, our money in full weight. So we have brought it back in our hand, and we have brought down other money in our hands to buy food. We do not know who put our money in our sacks. But he said, peace be with you, do not be afraid. Your God and the God of your father has given you treasure in your sacks. I had your money. Then he brought Simon out to them. So the man brought the men into Joseph's house and gave them water and washed their feet, and he gave their donkeys feed. Then they made the present ready for Joseph's coming at noon, for they heard that he would eat the bread there. When Joseph came home and they brought him a present which was in the hand into their house, and bowed down to him before the earth. Then he asked them about their well-being and said, is your father well? The old man of whom you spoke, is he still alive? And they answered, your servant, our father, is in good health. He is still alive. And they bowed their heads down and prostrated themselves. Then he lifted his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin and his mother's son, and he said, is this your younger brother of whom you spoke to me? And he said, God be gracious to you, my son. Now his heart yearned for his brother, so Joseph made haste and sought somewhere to weep. And he went into his chamber and wept there. Then he washed his face and came out, and he restrained himself and said, serve the bread. So they set him a place by himself, and them by themselves, and the Egyptians who ate with him by themselves, because the Egyptians could not eat food with the Hebrews, for that is an abomination to the Egyptians. Well, and they sat before him, and the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men looked in astonishment at one another. He took the servings to them before him, but Benjamin's serving was 5 times as much of any of theirs, and they drank and were merry with him. And that's where we will stop for today, because all right. Well, I hope everyone has a good rest of their day, a good rest of their week, and I hope everyone has a good Sunday. They had a good time listening. Thank you for tuning in so much. I appreciate if anyone continues to come back. Let's hope next week after I'm done posting this. So next week we'll be done with Genesis, and then we can start Exodus. And then be on the lookout though, because when I finish Genesis, I'll explain it more next week. But I'm gonna post another video after it. It's gonna be like a recap sort of thing. I'll go into more depth next time, and then I'll have a plan. I'm probably gonna write a plan down this week. We'll see though. Yeah, I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Thank you so much, and have a good rest of your guys' day. God bless.